Welcome. I think that, as we were going for the break, I told people that you're going to tell us some of your unfulfilled pursuits. Do you think you have something that you haven't fulfilled yet and which you are still pursuing?
Okay, good question. Thank you. Life is a journey, work in progress. I want to see that arrested development of youth is stopped or diluted, more so in Ethiopia. There is much more to be done, and I'm not able to do for want of time, capacity, resources. I also want to see that the first line, that the individual contributors transcend and uplift themselves to managers of people, and managers of people become managers of managers in effective way, not only in corporate world but also in government.
Right.
Because that would have a ripple effect. I want to see a much better sustainable living. I still see a lot of waste, climate damage being done because of our habits, because of our consumption. I am a minimalist. I am a firm believer of one fact, that there is only one religion which subsumes every other religion.
Okay.
What if the planet Earth is not there? Would there be other religions? So I think we should subordinate our individual faith to one larger belief that let's sustain and let us ensure the earth survives.
Right.
And that climate action is something that is underdone. It's much talked about. I want it to go out of conference, such talks, to actions. Use of plastic to be reduced, circular economy to be done, more sustainable living, food miles to be stopped. Imagine the packaged food we get here is coming from 5,000 kilometers.
Imagine that.
Imagine, and when we are producing, and it also goes from here and comes back. Look at the food miles and its consequent damage to the economy. So we need to live local, think global, and we need to have sustainable. So there's a lot to be done. There are a lot of failures, underachievement, delayed projects. And you know what, I recruit C-suite, I recruit top guys, and rarely, and even the juniors in the middle, rarely I take anybody who has not failed.
You have to take someone who's gone through the process of failure 100%. For them to achieve success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Failure is a good teacher.
Right. There's something you mentioned in what you just said right now about government, and I'm just thinking, do you think there's something that the government, and not just the Kenyan one or the Ethiopian one, but just governments generally, specifically on our continent of Africa, that can do to leverage on human capital, and more so the young people who actually have the energy and the strength to do what they need to be done, that needs to be done?
When I say government, means people who have capacity to influence and the resource, be it large corporates, non-governments, be it you and me on media, be it people in power, bureaucracy, executive, judiciary. I think I want to take back to an example. It'll take 2 minutes. In 80s, Indian government tied up with Suzuki, which was popularly known as Maruti.
Yeah.
And it created an ecosystem of automobile. Fast forward today, the largest export numbers of Suzuki cars are produced in India. I was lucky a decade back. I was a jury to an excellence award, and I spent 5 good days talking to Japanese and the Indian leaders at the Maruti facilities, that is called Suzuki facilities.
Right.
You know, how did that happen? It was one initiation by government and a company. It was a good, and they had a partnership. And an automobile sector just to assemble is a beginning micro step, but to have 95+% indigenization of all parts where there was no ecosystem prevailing. You know, they had a conscious effort of 10 years to develop the vendors, the primary suppliers. They gave them the toolkits, the dies, the machines, the know-how, the supply points, and they held them to be able to produce those parts.
Right.
In that ecosystem. Not only there, they went even to secondary suppliers who would then supply to this primary supplier, who would then supply to Suzuki and Maruti. And I guess in a decade and a half or two, they reached 90+, and then they reached 95%+.
Wow. In 15 years?
Yeah, I guess so. Take 5 or 10, but the fact remains, the indigenization of a virgin territory on a virgin space happened. And I'm a fan of clusterization. I see in Ethiopia a lot of clusters. This is a pharma cluster. This is textile cluster. This is agro-processing cluster. So what happens is, and I told you earlier, social thingy.
Right.
So what we got to do is, the role of government to exploit the resources or to value add in is to create these clusters of excellences, and then don't manage them, micromanage them. Enable them with know-how, encouragement, and cluster them. And even the small scale industries would multiply. Why are we not making batteries and off-grid solar systems in here? Okay. Why can't we have that cluster coming in? Why we are the best of people in hospitality? Why don't we have 1 million bed or 1 million cottages retirement home, and we give our nurse and the Westerners who are on the payroll of government, they come here to retire, and we have a rippling effect. Why don't we make batteries? Storage, we have the raw material. Why don't we package food? Why don't we make medicine here? This is all what we consume. Mobile phones, recycle old electronic waste, circular economy. Why don't we have cluster for blue economy for ocean? Africa has a good coast as well. Yes. So what I'm saying, cluster approach, you are never alone. Create the ecosystem is what is the role of the government and big corporation, and then don't mind. And let then the SMEs, and you know what?
Thrive, yes.
Yes, best of the entrepreneurs in Africa I have seen in eastern and southern part are Kenyans. Yeah,
we have Kikuyus everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't separate one from other. But what I've seen is the entrepreneurial excellence manifests in Kenya.
True. I totally agree.
And you know, I'm a fan of not reducing. You have to compare these countries. I don't want to reduce one. I'm saying if one progresses, the others that contaminated, contagious, influenced by the success of the one who succeeds, and there is a ripple effect.
So it becomes infectious.
Infectious, exactly.
We started the interview by saying that you know, you've transformed businesses. So what, I don't know what message you'd have for CEOs or leaders in specific industries or all industries to achieve that kind of transformation, where they can actually leverage on some of the things that you leveraged on to be as successful as you have been.
See, most of the entrepreneurs of Africa, I salute them. I've learned a lot from them. When they came, they were voracious insurgents who fought with the industry's inefficiencies to deliver a better value to customer. So they created good value proposition, and they delivered. And from a tiny organization, they got mid-size. From mid-size, they got large size. Now, irony of life, following the founder's mentality by Bain, is the growth gives complexity. And then we have corporate headquarters, and when we grow up, and then we have the bureaucracy coming in. And the complexity stifles growth.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, how do you manage the same entrepreneurial instincts and agility of cheetah while you have a size of elephant?
Good question. How do you do that?
So my message, okay, so one is to grow the business, to make it longer and to endure the phases of maturity is something that we need to do. And of course, we need to leverage human capital. That frontier is not yet explored enough, even by the best of the organization. The second part is, in case of turnaround, we have somewhere got crosswinds and headwinds, and we are caught in a whirlpool. We are probably not performing the way it is desired. And my role in last two stints was given crunch assignments like Mission Impossible, only 2 years, turn them around with their chronic issues. So what I look at, and what is my message to CEOs is, look at the value chain, look at the strategic and strategic levers, look at the constraints. Each place go with open mind. You played a good series in last season, it's fine. Go null and void, go humbly curious, listen, scan the environment, use a lot of cognitive horsepower in scanning, and engaging healthiest engagement to listen to people.
Right.
Key stakeholders. Find out the key levers of success and find out the key constraints, and then strategize and go about doing it. Never leave yourself away from the front line. The space where employee customer encounter happens is a learning hotbed. and we need to be there, and we can never distance from that. And then gradually you play to your strategy, rally support from your corporate, rally support from experts, make your stakeholders your partners, and with your employees, people support what they help create. When you listen, the word listen is an anagram of silent, same letters.
Right.
Listen with an intent to understand. Then churn mentally, cognitively, and then give it in a palatable, engaging way and drive the transformation and change.
Right. Something else you did mention, but I felt like we haven't milked it enough, is the stereotyping as we talk about inclusivity and leveraging also on our diversity, because you and I are not the same. You and the cameramen in here are not the same. So how do we leverage on that diversity so we can be inclusive? And of course, we can talk about stereotyping as well.
All generalizations are wrong, including the one I'm making now. So what I'm trying to say is,
yes,
subsume and subordinate your individual first instinct of the person is different than me. See, if you look at the nature, when the child was born, she appreciated everything that was new. So I was born intelligent and I was born inclusive. But then the society and education ruined me. It instilled in me and conditioned me into the stereotyping.
right.
So what we need to do is, we learned, we appreciated, we learned the wrong behavior, and now we go back. We need to consciously program ourselves and conditions that whenever something is new, unpalatable, different, it is good. At least it is not bad.
Okay.
So I speak at conferences in HR conferences on diversity and inclusion. What I am saying is, today, forget the basic gender diversity. I want generational diversity in play. I want millennials reverse mentoring the 50-year-old on tech and learning from them how to be resilient and how to have constancy of purpose. I want that interplay of generations, genres, to come into the play of diversity. I want organizations not only lip servicing but actually having inclusion. Diversity is having a seat on the table, and inclusion is having a voice. And D&I personified is having the discretion by the management, and creating that culture that which voice is to be heard in what context. You see, the moment you are not heard, you are not excluded. The fact that at that point in time, your minority view was not taken into the space because there were other overriding priorities. Okay. And how you make others feel at least heard and listened to, and yet they might not be implemented for reason A, B, and C. Then there is a cognitive and emotional acceptance that, okay, we did the fair process. Organizations need to build their cultures around these pillars of having variety, of having generational game. One more place now is diversity in terms of place. We could have on-site workers, we may have off-site workers, we may have hybrid workplace. Right. So the next situation is, how do we include and engage all of this? A new mother working remotely in my workforce is as competent and as contributing as a person who is there 24/7 or 8/5 at the office. And how do we recognize that distance is just a physiological norm? ROWE, results only work environment. Deliver results.
ROWE. Okay.
Results only work environment. You deliver that regardless of where you are. And sorry to give you the HR jargons, but the time has come that we deploy them. Imagine the addition to the economy if we have the young mothers being able to contribute and continue their careers immediately after 4 or 5 months of the childbirth. We'll add to the forces.
Productivity, of course. Something I need to ask you in regards to, again, you're big on human capital. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of human capital had to be laid off from workplaces. Businesses had to be shut. People became sick. Places like Movenpick, where they they rely on human capital literally had to shut down. I don't know what your thought is in terms of the future and where we're looking at in case of another, God forbid, another pandemic. Can we still leverage on human capital?
A slight optimization of what you said. I'm a big on efficiency and effectiveness. Human capital is just a tool. My mission is to make the world and make the organizations effective and efficient in the same sequence. Unless we have effective, successful organizations and institutes, be it in business or social, we won't have human capital or we won't have progress. Setbacks and challenges would come. They will probably be more augmented. They might be more, the pace of change and pace of disruption would be much faster.
Right.
So we need to have effective and efficient organizations, and human capital is a one tool which is under harnessed as of now, and we need to equally give it a play and try to deal with it. Engaging people in the right way. I have done the unfortunate, I have recruited scores and thousands of people, scaled up in renewables in India, in Africa, at Bitco in my earlier career. And unfortunately, I had also to lay off people sometimes to make organizations effective. When you communicate properly, when your heart is clean, right, when you engage with the right way and you know your focus, in order to have a larger good, few could be compromised, and you follow the law at a minimum. Law is a cult of minimum, remember. But your core value, our Safal care values are much above the cult of the minimum. It assumes minimum, but then how do you do your partnership with your employees, which is our core value, and how you play it out makes people buy in and forgive you for harsh decisions. People need to multitask. We cannot have one skill. We need to have multitasking, multiple skill streams, so that we survive this chaos. The disruptions would come very. If we live closer to nature, if we are multitasked, if we are change ready and amenable, the disturbance would be less severe and going forward, I guess. Okay.
The youth. You were successful at a very young age. You remember when we started by saying that you were at one point a dean at the age of 26. I can't remember what I was doing at 26. I think I was just playing around. But you at 26 had a very proper, seriously well-charted career. What message do you have for the young people who are currently watching you right now and they're in their 20s?
I think the whole effort should be now on focusing and channelizing the atom bomb of energy that youth has. Youth are full of energy, full of ambition, not necessarily full, but they have ambition, but I want to increase the appetite. The millennials are missing on that. So what we want to give youth is skill and opportunity. I tell you one thing, skill is still easy to give, impart. There is a self-learning possible today. With all the ICT gadgets available, we can self-learn. The issue is opportunity. Each organization, each person, each individual, each leader must give opportunity to youth to learn. And youth in turn should make the first move, make themselves available for internships, for small little projects, for virtual projects. Volunteer is a way to go. Thanks for giving me that word. So they should make themselves available, type first time, second time, third time, and not look at immediate what is in it for me.
Right.
My biggest message to youth is today's genre, unfortunately, is impatient for irresolution.
Impatient for irresolution.
They cannot withstand the suspension or the meantime when there is a problem and there is no solution. They panic, they're frantic, they give up. Our youths must know the process of metamorphosis take time.
Yeah.
If the solutions come that easy, you don't learn. And you know where the learning and the resilient and enduring learning happens?
Where?
It is the space between the problem and solution.
That is where the learning takes place.
Yes, and reflection about that space, post-event, really solidifies your learning. And what our youth want in a Netflix era, in a 90 minutes, they want suspense, romance, mystery, drama and solution.
Horror, thriller, everything.
In that. But life doesn't unfold as we plan. And they should be having what they call in emotional intelligence is a pause button, a delay in gratification of your urges. You got to be kind of holding it and live with an unresolved issue over a period of time and season and reflect.
Yeah.
And that is where learning happens. And unfortunately, our schools, our life, our parenting, our mentoring, our coaching is not recognizing this pivotal point enough, what I need to say. Even your media, you want to give everything in a package in a short period of time. Earlier, a series of episodes on a TV would end on one Friday, and we will grapple, watch, wait till the next Friday. It comes. Now I can download the next series and watch it.
You can watch it in one Friday.
So I guess immediate gratification,
right,
should
now turn to delayed gratification.
Yes,
okay.
I guess so.
We're almost getting to the tail end of our conversation, but I shouldn't let you go before you tell us something about minimalistic living. And I think that is one thing that probably we need to start focusing on, especially considering we are in the era of war, pandemics, and so on and so forth.
I am a Jain. In our Jain religion and our practice, we live very close to, very close to sustainability, up to the extent, in the truest sense, which I am not able to practice always, we can't even consume something that is grown below ground because it has more bacteria.
Something that is grown below ground, like potatoes?
Yes, in our strictest sense of Jain. But of course, we are not, many are not practicing, many are.
Yeah. So no potatoes, no cassava, onions,
correct. And forget
carrots.
The egg and the meat, we don't do it. So what I am saying is, I believe, and I may be wrong, and I am speaking from my estimation, there is no scientific research that I have done.
Okay.
The earth probably was not configured for 8 billion people. I believe the earth was configured for much lesser population. And when it was configured, in the truest sense, it was also to coexist with other ecosystems. The human domination on the species and the resources is now getting at it is crossed the tipping point, it is crossed the danger point, and the fallout would be different reactions by earth to manage its you have more carbon dioxide, you pump in more oxygen, you have more heat, you have AC. So earth might have its own default systems to clean it up. So unless we consume less, unless we live closer to the earth in the ways that were meant to be done in the earlier ages, and unless we less dominate the ecosystem, coexist, I guess we are in for trouble. And like I told you earlier, biggest religion or biggest pursuit we should have is to ensure our planet exists. While Elon Musk is trying to populate Mars, which is a good one, we also need to see that not all 8 billion would go to Mars, right?
Of course not.
So we'll also live here, and we should have a generational time horizon view towards being more sustainable. Least we can do is consume less, throw less, recycle, get into circular thing. Least we can do that. Turn off the taps, use steel straws, train our people to be conscious on consuming less.
I feel like this conversation should be going on for much longer. I guess we need to continue this conversation in Ethiopia.
Very soon.
Very soon indeed. Thank you very much, Bhavesh Chandaria. He is the Executive Director of Ethiopia Steel PLC, which is a sister company of MRM here in Kenya and part of a larger company, part of a large group rather, that is Safal Group, I guess in a couple of the countries that I mentioned. This is where we come to a close as far as this conversation is concerned. Please let us know your thoughts on our social media pages. You can also find me at Mungala Mbuvi as well across all social media pages. And of course, I shall be seeing you next week when we have another Captain of Industries.